For Module 14, we're asked to do a case study on internet use violations. In this case study, we were asked to review some information about a teacher who was threatened by potentially a student, a parent, or someone in the community. To summarize the case, it's a high school called Slattery Steno High School. And there's a science teacher that's been very upset about an email that was sent to her over a vacation weekend. She's a teacher that teaches in a very rigorous way. Her teaching methods and her grading are very challenging for the students. There have been several complaints from students and parents about her class. Typically, the complaints go to Dr. Smith, the principal within the building. The science teacher receives an email on a Sunday afternoon when she returns from a vacation. She gets very upset, calls the principal. The principal calms her down after he reads the information that she had forwarded to him, an email and a Facebook post, and schedules a meeting for Monday morning to discuss the details and how they're going to handle this moving forward. What we know about this case, there's 6 things I think that are important when trying to identify all the components here to come up with a solution to this situation. The first thing is, what are the dynamics of Slattery Steno High School? It's located in a large city, a very affluent area, lots of doctors and lawyers and business type people in the community. Students have the best technology, clothes, and resources they need to be successful. The students in the building are very high achieving. Many of them are competing for valedictorian and salutatorian, especially the ones in Miss Tate's class. There is a lot of pressure on them to get high grades. It creates a lot of stress on the students, and they get very concerned and upset if they're not achieving at a high level. Miss Tate is the science teacher. She's a second-year high school teacher. First-year teacher at Slattery Steno High School was last year, so her first time ever teaching was in this building. She is a little bit older. She's a non-traditional teacher because she got a teaching degree and then got a master's degree and then did some work at the college for a couple of years before she became a teacher. So she's a little bit older than a typical beginning high school teacher. She works hard. I gathered that from the case study that she's a hard worker. She's not married. She doesn't have kids. She has time to spend at school, and that's pretty much her life. And she expects a lot from her students. And by doing that, maybe she overworks the students because of her expectations. She does provide that rigorous workload that students have complained about. Dr. Harvey Smith is the principal. He is recognized as a very good principal. He was principal of the year in the state the previous year. Very respected by parents in the community. He takes a lot of pride in hiring quality teachers to keep the culture of the school and maintain its integrity and academic presence is very strong, and he takes a lot of pride in that. The parents in this community are professionals. They value education. They understand how important it is. So that makes it puts a lot of pressure on the school to provide a quality education for their kids. They have complained about Miss Tate's workload and grading. Typically, they go to Dr. Smith because they trust him, and they discuss her class with Dr. Smith, and they have done this in the past. The other things that we know is there has been an email sent to Miss Tate, a threatening email, and over a holiday weekend, and it's from an anonymous person or an unidentified person. There's a link that goes to a Facebook page within the email that's checked by Miss Tate, and there's lots of offensive language and content. And at the bottom of the Facebook post, it reads, "Who wants Miss Tate to disappear?" What we need to find out about this is the who, what, when, where, and why. Who wrote this email and developed this Facebook post? What content is in the email and the Facebook post that's threatening, and how are we going to handle that? When did this take place? Did it take place at school? Did it take place at home with a group of kids, a group of parents? And where did this come from? Did it, where it's an unidentified email? So where can we find this email? And why did the parents or students or somebody in the community write this threatening email and Facebook post to Ms. Tate? And hopefully we can use our technology center, our technology personnel to help from school to maybe sift through some of those things. I think the other thing we need to know is what is a policy on threats and bullying, on internet violations that's provided in the policies from our school board, our superintendent. We need to look at those and just review and double check what's in those and how we're going to handle this situation and what the punishments are. I think that's important that we just take a look at and review those, because this isn't something that's going to happen on a daily basis. May not have happened all year. You don't know that. So need to make sure that we take a look at our internet violation policies and handle those appropriately. What students could have done, or what students could have done this, what students in our class. Ms. Tate mentioned Will Hall was a disruption to the class. It certainly could have been him. It could have been a parent, could have been anyone. We can't just start assuming things. But we need to take a look at the students in this class to and find the ones that we trust and develop the ones we have relationships with that hopefully have heard something about this from their friends. Identifying the problem. Was the threat created by a student or parent, etc.? So we have some work to do to find out who actually did this. Mrs. Tate has been contacted by Dr. Smith about some things in the past. He's discussed things to improve her teaching. And has Ms. Tate done anything? Has she done anything to improve her teaching after these discussions have taken place? And then we have to solve the problem. We need to involve all the school personnel, the superintendent, school resource officer, tech center, all those people to find out who did this. The strategies that we need to use in a plan of action is we need to set up a meeting with the superintendent, school resource officer, the technology center to explain the situation, show them the content, and develop a plan how we're going to move forward. If necessary, if the school resource officer or superintendent thinks we need to contact a local law enforcement, then we need to do that. We need to sit down and talk to Ms. Tate. I think that's she's obviously very upset about this, and as she should be, and we need to sit down and listen to her and make sure she's supported and get her side and how we're going to help her moving forward. We need to look at the students in the class. We need to question those students. And then we need to get a hold of our tech center and make sure that they can do everything they can to help us identify this source. And the implementation of our plan, we need to make sure that we just follow through on the things mentioned in the previous slide, set up the meetings. We need to make sure we are maintaining and doing a great job of using appropriate documentation of all conversations. Again, we need to review the school internet use policy and violations of how to handle these situations. We need to make sure that we support Ms. Tate both through her mental side of all this and professionally. We need to make sure that she feels comfortable about coming back to school and safe to go back in the classroom. Resolving the issue, we need to make sure that we keep everything confidential and be professional in how we handle this. We need to just make sure that we don't assume that it's this person or that person. We have no idea who it is. We can't just start assuming just because there's been a couple situations with a few students. It could be anybody in the school community. We need to make sure we take things very serious and be detailed in all our documentation. And we need to support our students and Ms. Tate And we've worked really hard to develop a culture within our school. We need to make sure that we maintain that. Debriefing the problem, there's three categories here that we want to talk about: the thinking, the feeling, and the valuing. What are we thinking? How do we keep this from happening in the future? Are we doing everything we can to keep this from happening? Can we solve this issue? How can we help Miss Tate, and how can we help the students? That is exactly what we should be thinking. The feeling, we want to keep things safe and positive. We've worked really hard. We don't want to ruin the trust of the community and how we handle tough situations. And yes, we are concerned about the result, and we need to make sure that we handle this with the correct way to handle those concerns. And we're valuing community relationships are very important in this school, in our school culture, and make sure we handle this with fairness and integrity. Unresolved issues, personal well-being, Ms. Tate's personal well-being and teaching ability. Is she able to teach? We've had some issues in the past, and we need to make sure we review those and make sure she is doing okay mentally and physically. And are we communicating our internet abuse in school the appropriate way? Are we communicating it to our students, and are they understanding how important that the internet abuse policy is taken? Reflection on Standard 6. We need to make sure that we work hard in coming up with a solution that is fair and just. We need to, respect everyone involved. We need to handle this with and really work hard in coming up with a solution and handle it with lots of integrity. Adhere to our policies that we have in place. We create policies for a reason. We need to make sure that we follow those policies and handle all protocol and punishments appropriately. And we need to handle this case with trust and fairness, and make sure that we don't accuse anyone, and we handle this and interview and document everything the appropriate way to maintain the confidence in our community that we're going to handle these tough situations the correct way. The components within the standard 5, we need to make sure we act with integrity, provide support for Ms. Tate and teachers, and make sure that we handle everything with professionalism and confidentiality. In acting with fairness, we need to listen to all involved. We need to get the facts and be diligent in our investigation. We need to make sure that we have the appropriate punishments from the policies that we have, and handle these things the correct way. In acting in an ethical manner, we need to make sure that we provide professional development for Ms. Tate in the future, and maybe develop a mentoring program to help her. If we feel like that we can help her, maybe another teacher can help her, a quality teacher can help her in the future. And we need to make sure we educate our students and make sure that we're getting that information out to our students the correct way with all our policies, in this particular case, the internet abuse policy. And we want to maintain those community relations. The final summary is a quote by Douglas MacArthur: "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to be a leader, but becomes one by the quality of his actions and the integrity of his intent." This quote came to mind as I read this case study, and as an administrator, we need to make sure that we always handle things professionally, that we have the courage to handle tough decisions. I always believe there's 3 key components to great leaders, and you need to be very organized. You need to communicate appropriately and diligently, and we need to make sure that we can handle tough decisions the correct way. Those who can handle tough decisions, in a case like this internet use violation case study, are the best administrators. You oftentimes are going to be judged by how you handle tough situations, and to be a good leader, you have to do those things the appropriate way. Thank you.